What's up, everyone? Welcome into the stream. We have an exciting college football weekend ahead of us. It's not one of the best weeks out there, but my goodness, am I dialed in and plugged in to this weekend of college football. Last week was enormous to say the least. Now, I will start by saying I'm a little under the weather today, not feeling too hot, but I am fired up to show you guys what I've got for today. Let's start out with the fact that, quite frankly, this slate, in my opinion, is one of the more predictable ones. Now, I'm going to do all of the, or not all of the Friday games, 3 of the Friday games tonight. I'm going to talk about 7 early Saturday games. And then tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Central Time, I'll be talking about all of the big games tomorrow afternoon. So if you got questions, if you got thoughts, if you're looking for some value plays tomorrow, I'll be talking about the SMU, Arkansas, Ohio State, Georgia, Indiana, Arizona State, Florida, UCLA, Rutgers, Kentucky, Syracuse, Notre Dame, Alabama, Auburn, BYU, and FSU games tomorrow morning. Today, I will mainly be talking about, let's see here, Louisville, Nebraska, Cal, LSU, Georgia Tech, Michigan, TCU, Arizona, Oklahoma, and then I might touch on this West Virginia game, but we'll see how far I get. But for starters, let's talk about this Louisville-Miami game going down on a Friday night. Very, very strange, in my opinion. This game screams weirdness. Louisville is an 11.5-point dog. They're 4-1. Their only loss comes in overtime to a Virginia team who I think is pretty damn good, right? Chandler Morris is playing like a top 15 quarterback in college football. Meanwhile, Miami has been nothing less than dominant, right? Throughout their entire season so far, they've beaten Notre Dame, who I think is a top 15 team. They've beaten Florida State on the road. Yes, Florida State has had some disappointing games over the past couple weeks, but I still think they're a really strong team. They beat and handled Florida, another team that's obviously underrated. I think Florida is probably the best 2-4 team in the country. Miami was able to manhandle them pretty much the entire night. And then, of course, South Florida, the best G5 team out there as of right now, and Miami dog walked them. The game was over by halfway through the second quarter. So I am a firm believer that this Miami team is indeed, rightfully so, a top 3 team in the country. Louisville, on the other hand, if this game was in Louisville, I think this spread would be somewhere around 4.5, maybe 5.5. I think the fact that it's a short week and it's on the road, that's a tough spot to pick this Louisville team to win this game. I'm not of the belief that the Cardinals travel terribly well. Let's take a look at their games here. They're 6-4 in their last 10 on the road. Mainly looking here at 2024 and beyond. They had one game on the road at Pitt. That's a pretty good Pitt team, right? Pitt, I believe, is 4-2 so far this season with losses to Louisville and West Virginia in that rivalry game. This isn't really a rivalry matchup, but look, these are the 2 games that I want to look at. Miami under Mario Cristobal has continuously gotten into shootouts with Louisville. Jeff Brom, the head coach at Louisville, I guess knows how to dial up the pressure here. The over-under on both of these games at 46 and 60.5. They soared over those totals, right? Almost 70 points in this game, 97 points last year with Cam Ward at quarterback for Miami. I think Carson Beck is just as good as Cam Ward was playing last year at this time. Now, overall, Cam Ward ended up having a much better season than Carson Beck, but we've yet to see what he looks like in a full-on shootout, right? I mean, that Florida State game, the game was really over by the end of the third quarter. Miami just parked the bus. They lost that fourth quarter 19-0, right? They outscored Florida State 28-3 for the first three quarters. So while this game does look close, I have to tell you, it was not close. FSU just needed an outright miracle to win that game. So I don't pay too much attention to that. I want to specifically talk about one player prop, actually two player props in this game that I really like for Louisville. So looking at this Louisville lineup, I see this weird prop right here that Chris Bell, the wide receiver one for Louisville, his over under longest reception is set at 30.5, which I thought was very strange considering two things. Throughout this season, 5 games on the year for Louisville, right? He's only had one game, 1 out of 5 games where he's gone over that, 64. A lot of these other ones, they're pretty close, 20, 25, 28. He's had a couple of big 20-yard catches in this game and in this game as well, but not touching that 30 line. Meanwhile, Miami has been dominant against the pass. No, they've only allowed it one time, and that was against Chaz Nimrod, who I actually think is a little bit better than Chris Bell. That's a hot take, but those are just my thoughts. I don't know if Miami, their secondary is obviously improved from last season. So if I had to guess here, I think this line is set at 30 because they're expecting Louisville to like unload the bag in the second half because they're down a couple scores. Maybe. But I'm going with the under here on this. And it's just because the statistics tell me so. I mean, it's almost an even line, minus 114. Okay. And we're getting 80, 85% of these odds in our favor. I mean, 4 out of 5 here, 4 out of 5 here say no. So 2 out of 10. That goes to tell me something. Although I will say the sheer target share over the last couple weeks says that eventually he's going to bust one out. So would I be shocked if that's this week? Absolutely not. But based off of what we've seen so far from both Bell and Miami, I have to lean with the fact that I think Miami can actually take care of business here and hold Chris Bell under his longest receiving prop. Now, I do think he has potential to hit this 90, but I'm not touching that because I think Miami secondary, like I said, much improved. The second player prop that I want to talk about here under Louisville, Jaleel Skinner has been a pretty consistent guy here for Louisville so far this season. Almost catches every single ball thrown to him, averaging let's look at his last 5 games, right? This is going to give us a good idea. 3.2 targets per game, 2.4 catches per game. We're seeing here this target share starts at 1 to 3 to 2 to 3 to 7. Receptions 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. So we're seeing an increase in workload here. The connection between Skinner and Miller Moss is increasing, and I do think this team is going to be behind the sticks for the vast majority of this game. Miller Moss is going to have to sling the rock, and who better to sling the rock to than a guy who has continuously increased his workload? So I'm going alt play here, and I'm going over 29.5 receiving yards. Now, once again, that sounds like a lot, but here is my note, right? Obviously Bethune-Cookman, there's nothing to talk about there. Jonathan Eccles, not really a tight end one threat. Hayden Hansen just flat out could not get anything going. But Randy Pittman and Eli, I think it's Raridon, if I could pronounce that correctly. Both of these guys, right, are actual tight end one threats. And I think Jaleel Skinner is playing into that conversation. If he can catch 3 or 4 balls, I fully expect him to go over this line just simply because Louisville is going to have to sling the rock tonight. Now, looking at the weather as well, let's take that into account. The weather is overcast. I'm going to pull up a weather app real quick just to make sure it's not going to rain at all in Miami tonight. Better safe than sorry, am I right? Miami, Florida. Yeah. Okay. And it's not even cloudy. Wind gusts are up to 19 miles an hour. Skies look pretty according to my weather app. So that being said, I like this prop a lot. Plus value here gives me really good inklings that this line is actually closer to like a 25.5, right? You see only a roughly a 35 point difference here between these two. And then you see a massive jump here, a 50-point jump from the next 4 yards. So 4 yards is 30, and then 4 more yards is 50. So I like that value a lot. 8 yards over his over is a pretty good line to me. I think I had it originally at 24.5, but I'm actually going to chalk that up and I'm going to say 168. Over 29.5 is my official play here. That's the line I want to go with. Jaleel Skinner, like I said, playing really well over the last couple of games for Louisville. Now, here's another thing that's interesting. Both of these teams are coming off a bye. So I think we're going to see some points tonight. And that's where I get into my team props for tonight. I love Louisville in this matchup offensively. Now, defensively, I think they're in for a long night, right? But Louisville, I'm not taking them plus 11.5. I'm looking at the team props here. First, I want to look at Louisville over 19.5 points. I actually plugged that at over 19.5 at plus 104. The line has shifted 12 points down to minus 106. If you're looking for that plus money, 20.5 points is not a bad option. Louisville has done this in 10 of their last 10. Miami, when they play competent offenses that are on par talent-wise, like Notre Dame, like FSU, they get the job done. So 20.5 plus 122, that's not bad. I'm going to stick with my over 19.5 at plus 104. If you want to go that 19.5 minus 106, I don't think that's a bad option at all. Louisville's offense has been a juggernaut so far this season. Looking at their 5 games, they're averaging 36 points per game. They've played some fair competition too. Pitt, Virginia, James Madison. They've scored 27, 34, and 28. I think they could absolutely get that over on this Miami defense. So be sure to look out for them whenever they start tonight at 6 p.m. So we're actually going to close this stream as the game starts. So the next prop that I like in this game is 2 over-under props. Number 1, alt play over 50.5 points, 51.5 points as a matter of fact. I think this game is going to skyrocket. Louisville has allowed the over to go over 80% of the time in their last 10. Looking at their 5 this year, it's also hitting at an 80% clip. They're averaging in their last 5 games 57 points per game. Miami, on the other hand, they're really close to that line there. Notre Dame, 51. Bethune-Cookman, 48. FSU, 50. And then they finally hit that over against USF, 61. I think we're looking at like a 38-24 type game. This is going to be a game that goes well over this 51. I like it here plus money. I got it at plus 120, and you can now get it at plus 125 via Fanatics. So be sure to hammer that in. I'm a big fan of this over. Over 49.5 is approaching plus money right now. Novig, if you could somehow get access to that, is plus 105. ESPN Bet actually has got it plus 100. So there's a decent amount of value there. I like the 2 points extra for 20 extra bonus points here, but that's just me. So that's my first one. Second one, I'm taking the fourth quarter over in these games. Looking at competitive games for Miami, they have been known to score late and allow other teams to score as well. So over 12.5 points was my line. Let's take a look. You can get that minus 116 via FanDuel. 80% of the time this season, that's hit for Louisville. If you're looking at Miami, 80% of the time it's hit for Miami. So these are 2 even lines that you can get. I got it at minus 112. You can get it now minus 116. I think that's a tremendous amount of value there. So for this game alone, we have 5 plays. Louisville and Miami combined over 51.5 points. Louisville over 19.5 points. And both these teams to score over 12.5 points in the fourth quarter. And then player props wise, we've got Chris Bell under 30.5 longest reception, and Jaleel Skinner over 29.5 receiving yards. So those are the 5 props that I like here. Miami, I looked at a lot of their props. They seem very inflated, and I think the reason that is because they're at home. I don't think the books are expecting Louisville's defense to travel. Louisville's defense, by the way, look at their first 5 games, only allowing 137 pass yards. If we look at Louisville's pass defense, let's take a look at that. Louisville against receiving yards. So this is a passing yard statistic. They're 8th in the country. Running, they're 24th in the country. Receiving, 13th in the country on rushing. Their weak spot is tight ends. If you wanted to take a plus money play here, take oh wow. I'm looking here at Lofton here, plus 300. Sorry, guys, I'm just now getting plugged into this. Ooh, I don't know about that. Anytime touchdown play plus 320 via Fanatics. Lofton getting 30% of the red zone target share. Dang. Okay. Well, I'll stay away from that because Miami runs the ball relentlessly. 78% of their red zone touches so far this season have been rush attempts. So I'll stay away from Lofton here, plus 320. Although I do like that. Louisville has shown some weaker tendencies against tight end, similarly to Miami. And this is kind of the reasoning why I like Skinner here, plus 29.5 receiving yards. And I don't hate him for an anytime touchdown, plus 500. That will actually be my long shot play of the night. Jaleel Skinner, anytime touchdown, plus 500. So that's my long shot play of the night. This is just for Friday night, by the way. This is not talking about tomorrow. I think, like I said, Louisville's going to be behind the sticks the entire game. They're going to be trailing, forced to pass, and that's kind of why I like a lot of their players in their player props here, especially Skinner, who has seen an increase in workload. I think Louisville can put up some offensive possessions here, so be sure to look out for them. Let's go ahead and talk about Minnesota versus Nebraska. Ladies and gentlemen, this game to me screams trap game. Both teams 0-5 against the spread so far this season and 0-3 against the spread for Nebraska. Look at the sides. They were favored in this game versus Maryland. They barely won it. They were favored heavily against Michigan State. And that was a close game near the end. Michigan, I fell short. I picked Nebraska. Michigan wins by 3. I think this Nebraska team is on the come up, right? They've beaten some pretty good teams. I think Cincinnati is a borderline top 25 team. I think Maryland, as much as people don't like to believe in Maryland, I think Maryland is a top 35 team in the country. So I like this Nebraska team a lot. I love Dylan Raiola. He's one of the best young prospects in the country. Looking at Minnesota, they have gotten throttled in a couple of their games. That game versus Cal was not close on the road. Obviously, they're going to get curb stomped against Ohio State 42-3. But at home, they play inspired football. They are 9 out of their last 10, covering a 7-point underdog spread, and they've won 8 of the last 10 outright. I have looked everywhere, all over the internet, looking for why they're a 7-point dog coming into tonight. I was thinking maybe PJ Fleck got a leg amputated or something, but no. Minnesota is a good football team. That Rutgers game, Rutgers is a decent football team. Penn State last year, Minnesota played them great. I think they play inspired football. And meanwhile, Nebraska has not been great on the road. And I'm kind of talking myself into it right now. I'm thinking this Minnesota team's going to win the game tonight. It makes no sense. I mean, this is an in-conference matchup, the middle of the season on a short week. I don't get it. Somebody's going to have to point something to me that I am missing here. I'm going to check one more time. I'm going to look up Minnesota football injury report, and I'm just going to see the Golden Gophers will be without a pair of secondary members, according 8 minutes ago. Dylan Callaghan Crawley 7 minutes ago for Gophers Nation reported they will be without cornerback Mike Gerald, safety Garrison Monroe. The Gophers will potentially be without cornerback John Nestor, who's questionable for the game. So also out for Minnesota are Christian Driver, linebacker Jeff Robinson, running back Trey Berry, kicker Sam Henson, offensive lineman Daniel Shipp, and defensive tackle. Okay. Running back AJ Turner, linebacker Drew Wilson, defensive tackle Mo Omanode remain out for the season. So it sounds like this Minnesota team is banged up, right? Christian Driver, I think he's let me look this up. I think he's that TikToker. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, he's a TikToker. He's out for the game apparently, but I don't think he's had a huge impact on Minnesota so far this season. Let's look at a couple of their box scores here. That Purdue team, by the way, 20-27, not a bad team. Let's look. Minnesota receivers. Don't see anything about Christian Driver in here, so I'm gonna believe that this Minnesota team is gonna get the job done tonight. Like the report said, Minnesota is very banged up in the secondary. Their secondary hasn't been great to start with, right? 279 to I'm gonna butcher his name. The quarterback for Cal, another guy I'm gonna butcher his name with. He plays for Rutgers. I think he's very talented. Transfer quarterback from last year, torched him for 249, and then of course Julian Sayin 326. Ryan Brown, the returner for Purdue, went 21 for 40, 203. Dylan Raiola on the road, looking at his last 5, hasn't been great. That game versus Maryland threw 3 interceptions. Man, it is tough to sit here and try to convince myself that Minnesota's going to win this game. Let me talk about some props that I actually like in this game. For starters, Dane Key has been a major red zone threat so far this season for Nebraska's 3 touchdowns, 1 in that last game versus Maryland. And quite frankly, when he's in the game, he's a threat all around. So I like him anytime touchdown. I got him plus 150 from Fanatics. Let's see what his line is sitting at now on a major sports book. Plus 150 at Caesars. You can take that as well. So I like Dane Key anytime touchdown here. Looking at Minnesota, we've talked about it. Their secondary is very weak. Their front seven's pretty damn strong, right? They're only giving up 92 yards on the ground per game. But meanwhile, the receivers are eating against Minnesota. 166 total yards per game for receivers, 1.33 touchdowns given up. So Dane Key, who is leading receivers or tied with Nizia Hunter for touchdowns per game. I like him anytime touchdown. Nizia Hunter, I also don't hate him anytime touchdown. If we go look at his odds, he's at 135. Actually, if you really wanted to take both of these guys, I think they get in the end zone. Prophet X has Emmett Johnson plus 184. Okay, that must be a special. If somehow you can get it on Prophet X plus 184, I would nuke that. Emmett Johnson gets or not even a god awful, just an unbelievable amount of attempts per game. He's averaging 16 attempts per game, 108 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns versus Michigan State, 2 versus Houston Christian, 3 versus Akron. Struggled against Big Ten opponents, by the way, except for that last game versus Maryland. He cut them up like a hot knife through butter. So I'd be looking out for Emmett Johnson, but anytime touchdown play, I'm not touching anything at minus 230, minus 240. That's too risky of a bet for me. So hold on, let me take a quick sip of water here. Okay, let's continue. Let's talk about what we've seen from this Nebraska team. I think Nebraska has a chance to get into the playoffs. If looking at that Nebraska schedule, you think they are probably a 10-2 team, I completely agree. This game tonight is going to determine that. Look, if you're looking for a play here, I've already mentioned Dane Key anytime touchdown. With a few receivers out tonight, I'm still a believer in Drake Lindsey. I think he's played pretty well so far this season. Just 2 interceptions and a combined 7 touchdowns. Minnesota's not that pass heavy of a team. Darius Taylor, of course, when he's healthy, I think he's dealt with a few injuries so far this season. 30 rushing attempts against Buffalo, 20 against Virginia Tech last season when he was with the Golden Gophers. But like I said, I think has missed some games due to injury. You could see the limited amount of touches here. Yeah, he missed basically the entire month of September. But as you can see, he's starting to rev back up. 8 carries against Ohio State, 14 against Purdue. His line is sitting here now at 16.5. Let's see what his anytime touchdown line is. I kind of would love to punch his anytime touchdown. -121. Let's look at Nebraska. Their defense. Their defense is not great against the run. They're 87th in the country against the run. I'm going to punch that. I'm going to go ahead and punch that. These lines are a little skewed, by the way, just because, like I said, Taylor's been out with injury. You got to take all of these with a grain of salt. So I'm going to go Caesars -121, 1.21 units. And I'm going to start out with Darius Taylor anytime touchdown. Yeah, this is definitely a play for me. Daniel Taylor, anytime touchdown -121 via Caesars. Be sure to plug that up. Okay, guys, first, I want to talk to you. We're about at the quarter break here. Doinksports.com has been tremendous for me so far this season. Now, I have to admit, Sunday when I was doing my plays, I went with almost all 20 of my plays were +200, +300, +400. I even got a +500 play in there. And I'll be honest with you guys. I was winless. It was a very embarrassing day. I swung for the fences, and not only did I miss, but my bat went into the third row of the audience and hit a kid. It was a bad, bad Sunday. But what I've been able to do so far this season with Doink Sports is produce consistency and win often. Now, I'm not winning $1 million out here. I'm not out here trying to advertise some kind of pipe dream. This is realistic gambling. And when I say that, I'm talking consistent, small unit play, leverage the books for every penny that you can get on the dollar, and make sure you take valuable plays. I find all of those with Doink Sports. For example, you got to use your brain a little bit, right? Darius Taylor is the RB1. Let's take a look at his prop analysis. Let's take a look at his last. First of all, we'll look at his game log. We could see he's been with Minnesota for quite some time. Prop analysis. Let's go look at his last 10 games. Before his injury this season, last year, he was averaging, what is that, 30? Or this is week 1, right? So 20, 32, 17, 22, 10. This was a game that they had to come from behind, so they weren't running the ball, and 15. So, and he scored a touchdown in 1, 2, 3, 4 of those 5 games, or 4 of those 6. So 66% of the time, right? Now, he didn't score a touchdown versus Buffalo. He was injured in these games. He's been ramping back up, and we get lines like Caesars at -121. Meanwhile, we go back up here. We pair that with some more analysis using the Doink Sports tool here, right? Let's go back and let's take a look at Nebraska against. They are 63rd in the country in allowing touchdowns to running backs. They're 87th in the country in allowing rushing yards to running backs as well. Taylor has seen his workload increase. It's only a matter of time before he punches the ball back into the end zone. We could do a quick little Google search to make sure that he's like on par and ready to come back. Comparing, let's see, news. Let's see. No injury updates, and all we've seen statistically is an increase in workload. So all that being said, right, if you're out here and you're looking for plays, right, and you wanted to pick Darius Taylor anytime touchdown, okay, and let's say you're using Fanatics, okay, and it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but I'm telling you, it's a big deal, and it matters over time, okay? Pennies on the dollar stack up. If you took this at Fanatics -125, this is a bad example just because it's such a marginal difference. I'll try to find a better one later on, but if you're using Fanatics and you find something at -125, but you could find it available for DraftKings at minus 115. That's 10 points of value there that you're missing out on by not taking it at DraftKings. So that's 10 cents on your dollar. That's a dollar for every $10 you spend, $10 for every 100 you spend, $100 for every 1,000 that you spend. It stacks up and it matters. So be sure to check out doinksports.com for yourself. If you're thinking about plugging a subscription, looky here. I am a Doink Sports partner. Here's my code PLIZONT, PLIZONT. You see it down there, 25% off of any package of your choosing. Like I said, I am a huge fan of Doink Sports. Wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't. I think there's a ton of value here on this website. Check it out for yourselves. Educate yourself on every play that you make and leverage it from all the major books out there, doinksports.com. And if you're interested in seeing some more sports content, check out my pages on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Plizont, same spelling, PLIZONT. So let's continue here. I have one more prop in this game, and that's wide receiver 1, Lamiki, I think is how you pronounce his first name, Brockington. What a freaking football name, right? This guy has seen a decrease in his workload, but I think that has to do with the run game starting to increase. However, Minnesota, 7-point dog. I expect them to be running or passing the football at some point tonight. And we don't really see another. This isn't like, okay, so 38% of the receiving targets in this game, 15, 17, 20. So while his receptions have gone down, his reception share has stayed pretty much the same. So if Minnesota's passing the ball, 1 out of every 5 passes is going to Brockington. So I like him over 3.5 receptions plus money here. He's done this in 4 of the last 5 games. Didn't really get it going versus Buffalo or Northwestern State. I think that had to do with the fact that these were both. Let's double check, take a look, make sure we're adding this up in our head correctly. Yeah, both of these games were pretty much out of the way by the third quarter for Buffalo, and then Northwestern State, it was 66-0. So the starters didn't play a lot in those games. So looking at the actual games for Lamiki Brockington, whenever they play good opponents, Cal, Rutgers, Ohio State, Purdue, he hits this line. I think he absolutely does it again here versus Nebraska. It's at home for Minnesota. They're a 7-point dog. I expect them to be passing the football at some point tonight, and a lot of these passes are going to be coming his way. So 3.5 receptions, that's an easy plus money play for me, plus 108. So those are the plays that I believe I've got for this Nebraska game. Dane Key, anytime touchdown. Lamiki Brockington, over 3.5 receptions. And then, I also like this. I found a special play. Be sure to look out for all of the specials. I found a personal special over 43.5 plus 130 via Hard Rock. Loved it, slammed it. If you can go to Hard Rock Bet, be sure to check that out. I'm sure that it's still out there. I found that using the Trending Insights tool over here in the top left. So if that is available to you, go out and take it, because plus 130 over 43.5, I think is easy to play here. Both of these teams, their offense is not bad at all. Minnesota in their last 5 games, averaging 23 points per game. And that's versus, oh, this is against, hold on one second. I apologize. Nebraska's averaging 45 points per game in their last 5. That's including 27 on a good Michigan defense, 38 and 34 against Maryland. Minnesota's offense, while they've looked really bad against Cal on the road in Ohio State, Rutgers 31, Purdue 27. I'm thinking this game is going to be somewhere along the lines of like 34-24, so well over that 47.5 line. I officially got it at 43.5, so that's my official play for the night. Plus 130. That was a juiced play on Hard Rock. Go out and check it out for yourselves. But overall, I definitely think that Minnesota has a good chance to compete in this game. I'm just saying. Nebraska's defense in conference has not looked great. 30, 27, 31 to Michigan State, and Maryland. Man, do I really want to do it? Do I want to call out the upset? I might just have to. I'm really talking myself into it. Let's look. You know what? I'll take the +7. +7 +105. That's my official play here. Upset alert for sure. Fanatics has it +105. So we'll say Minnesota +7. That's +105 on Fanatics. I like the play. I like the play right here. I'm a big fan of what Purdue looks like offensively and what Minnesota looks like offensively. This matchup was at 47 last week. I think Nebraska's offense is much more high powered. Their defense to me is slightly overrated. So on I think a cloudy night, a clear night, Minnesota 62 degrees, this ball should be flying. I'm thinking it's going to look a lot like that Bengals Steelers game from last night, where I think a combined 64 points were scored. Dylan Raiola is going to be throwing the hell out of this football. Drake Lindsay is efficient whenever he has to be. So I'm a big believer that this game is going over. And I think Minnesota can hold their own +7, +105 on Fanatics. So those are my plays for this game. That's 4 total plays. Let's move on and we'll talk about this Cal North Carolina game. I only have one play. It was a special that I saw online. It was via Fanatics. And I'm going to butcher his name, but I'm going to try to pronounce it anyway because you got to try challenging things in life. Jaron Kiwi Sagapalutali. Not a bad attempt here. His line is at under 255. I got it under 260.5, -115 via Fanatics. And the reason that I'm taking his under here is look at what North Carolina has been able to do so far this season. A couple of these, quite frankly, just had to do with the fact that it was an absolute murder. Clemson dog walked them. UCF played them so unbelievably well. Richmond, Charlotte, those are bottom tier games. I do not look at these statistically. And then Josh Hoover, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, played really well against them. Now, meanwhile, JKS, that's what I'm going to nickname him. He has not gone over this line in his last 3 weeks. Did it versus Minnesota at home. This is a game where Cal is at home again. He did it versus Texas State, but I think this game is going to look like the Oregon State game. Looking at the sides of this, Cal, let's see, versus Oregon State beat him 34-15. That's actually going to be my official score prediction for this game. I think UNC does not cover this 8-point spread. Cal looks like a very good team. Now, yes, they had a very disappointing loss versus Duke, and I don't even know what the hell happened versus San Diego State, but a good win on the road versus Boston College, a pretty damn good win against Minnesota, 27-14, and a dominant victory against Oregon State and Texas State as well. So that being said, or that's actually Texas Southern, I apologize, not so dominating. So all that being said, I think Cal, I'm not taking them -8 just because I don't like the way that they've looked consistently, but I do like this prop here. I think Cal wins this game comfortably. They do it on the ground. Looking at touchdowns, North Carolina's defense has been unbelievably weak to running backs so far this season. They're 116th in receiving yards allowed to running backs, 56 in the country, and rushing yards allowed. Quarterbacks also can put the ball on the ground, but overall, they've been decent against wide receivers, 74th in the country in receiving yards, really weak against tight ends. As a matter of fact, let's see here. Mini is he's +155. Don't like that play. I'm not going to call it anytime touchdown there. Not to mention, Cal runs the hell out of the football in the red zone 70% of the time. They're going with that. Now, Raphael, who has gotten a fair share of the targets here in the end zone, -173. Would not take that anytime touchdown versus North Carolina. I will stay away from that. Overall, I like Cal in this spot, but I don't think they're going to be slinging the rock. So JKS right here is my play. I got it under 260.5, -115 via Fanatics. Okay, so those are tonight's games. Let's talk about tomorrow, LSU Vanderbilt. Now, I've actually got I've kind of got to hurry up here because I've still got damn near 20 plays to talk about. So we'll start rolling through those real quick. LSU, this is the moment for me that LSU has to prove that they can move on from their offensive woes. I've seen them kind of improve so far offensively, but not really, right? You want to see this LSU team be able to put up 25 plus points on a Mississippi or an Ole Miss team that has not played great defensively at all so far this season. South Carolina, I think they have a decent defense, but for only 20 points at home, and the defense came out and put on a show, it's just not good enough for me. I'm gonna read you off some statistics real quick on LSU's defense. Let's look at LSU team stats. Let's see here. Yes, they're 4th in the country in points per game. They are, let's see, is that it? Oh, number 7 in the country in interceptions thrown. They're number 14 in the country in takeaways per game. 2. Diego Pavia has been turning the ball over recently. He threw an interception and a fumble against Alabama. Did not look good. Vanderbilt is at home off a bye. This should absolutely be their best game plan. Meanwhile, LSU comes on the road off that South Carolina win. There are a couple plays that I like here, player props wise. Caden Durham, alt play, over 64.5. On the road, they lean on this guy. On average, 16 carries per game, 76 yards in his last 5 matchups on the road. I absolutely love it. 76 yards, slam that 64.5 plus 130 via Hard Rock. That's exactly where I got it as well. Diego Pavia, this LSU defense has been absolutely clamps. His longest rush right now is set at 18.5. He did it versus Alabama. He did it versus Utah. But let's look at LSU last year. He did it again. I think LSU has learned their lesson, and they're not allowing this to happen, right? So far this season, they played Trinidad Chambliss, a very important dual threat. Lenore Sellers, dual threat. DJ Lagway, another dual threat, come nowhere close to this 18.5. So while Diego Pavia, yes, elusive, and he is a good quarterback, as much as I'm struggling to believe it, I don't think he's getting over this 18.5 longest carry. So those are my 2 player props so far. My third one is my guy. Give me this guy to score a touchdown. Trey'Dez Green for LSU. On his last 5 games, he scored 5 touchdowns. He missed a couple games this season with an injury, but now he's back healthy. And look at the production versus South Carolina. 11 targets, 8 catches, 119 yards, and a tub. Vanderbilt has been fairly decent against tight ends this year, but not great. They're 69th in allowing touchdowns. They're 107th against allowing yards. So Trey'Dez Green, give me this guy to go out here and put on a show. Wish I could get some player props, but unfortunately not available. So my 3 player props here are Diego Pavia, under 18.5 longest rush, Caden Durham, over 64.5 rushing yards, Trey'Dez Green, anytime touchdown, plus 300. Now that I'm thinking about it, that Pavia play doesn't sound great. I might retract that in just a minute. We'll see. Put a pause on that Pavia play. Let's continue, though, and talk about the official picks that I've got for this game. I think this is going to be a slop fest performance from both offenses. LSU, their team total is at 23. They've done it once all season long. Vanderbilt, their total is at 25.5. While they've done it 5 of their 6 games, LSU, on the other hand, has not allowed that all season. LSU's only allowing 12 points per game. I already told you. So I think this is going to be an LSU defense that runs, or this is going to be an LSU offense that if the game's going to go over, it's because LSU's offense scored points. So over, under, I'm taking the under 48.5. I got that. Let's see. Oh, actually, under 49.5. I got that via Hard Rock, minus 115. Let's see if that's still available. Yeah, under 49.5, minus 115 via Hard Rock. I would take that in a heartbeat for this game. Although Vanderbilt has been able to do it in some of these games, they're blowout games, right? Not versus SEC teams. Look at the two teams that Vanderbilt has played SEC-wise. 38-44, not the 45. LSU versus SEC opponents. South Carolina, Ole Miss, Florida, all well under that 49.5 line. I like that a lot. I think LSU's defense shows up. Vanderbilt's offense is going to struggle. And then, is this a get-right game for LSU's offense? I think that it is. I'm going to go with them money line plus 115. I got that on FanDuel. Just one unit to play there. I think LSU, yes, they've struggled in spots, but they almost beat Ole Miss. They were able to handle Florida because of their defense. They were able to handle South Carolina because of their defense. I expect them to do the same. I have been a major, major doubter of this Vanderbilt team. And so far, their best win is versus South Carolina in a game that they injured Lenore Sellers at the start of the game. And they did win 31-7, right? But their most impressive win has got to be this one. And they were playing against a team with an injured quarterback. So once again, Vanderbilt last year was pretty surprising. Let's look at their last 15, right? They beat Alabama, they beat Kentucky, and at that point, and then they beat Ball State. And at that point, I think they were a top 20 team in the country. And then they dropped that game versus Texas. They beat Auburn on the road, and then they lost 3 in a row to actual quality SEC opponents. That's kind of how I view Vanderbilt this year. They started out 5-1. They've beaten one SEC team so far. They got throttled versus Alabama. I think that game could have been much uglier. So I like LSU to outright win this game. Those are my 5 plays for this one. We're going to have to speed this up. I keep saying that, but we're going to get there, guys. Okay, first up, the Yellow Jackets Blue Devils game, Duke, Georgia Tech. Let's talk about it. Haynes King, minus 180, anytime touchdown. Not only do I like that, I like Haynes King, 2 touchdowns, plus 300. Duke is 132nd in giving up touchdowns to quarterbacks. The guy that they really got hammered on with this is Jake Retzlaff, who runs like Haynes King does. Haynes King averages like 15 carries a game so far this season, and he scored 2 or more touchdowns. Let's take a look at his prop analysis. He scored 2 or more touchdowns in 3 of his 5 games so far this season. That's what I love about this guy. Now, he didn't do it versus Clemson, but look at that. 25 rushing attempts, 21 versus Wake Forest, only 14 for Virginia Tech, but that was a game where they were able to get it out the mud, right? I think this is absolutely a spot here where Duke struggles against dual threats. Haynes King succeeds against defenses who struggle against the dual threats. Like you could see here, Jake Retzlaff, 17 carries, 111 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. I'm feeling the same thing here for Haynes King. That's a little bit of a stretch play at plus 300. Love him anytime touchdown if you want to play it safe. Next up, we've got Haynes King under 39.5 longest pass attempt. Now Tulane did it, and I believe that's NC State did it 75-63. I think this Duke team is still disciplined defensively, and Georgia Tech's not really that explosive of an offense. So I'm taking that minus 110 via Hard Rock. Jamal Haynes, I think Georgia Tech, they are underdogs in this game. Shockingly enough, the number 16 team in the country is an underdog heading to an unranked opponent. But Duke is being majorly slept on. Their 2 losses versus Tulane, a top 3 G5 team in the country, and Illinois, who I still think is a top 25 team in the country. Let's talk about this, though. Jamal Haynes, so far this season, prop analysis-wise, he's touching those lines, right? 12, 12, 14. I think we finally see him go over this 11.5 line consistently, minus 108 via underdog. So those are the 3 player props that I've got. I have no official team props for this game, so we can roll on. And we'll talk about Washington versus Michigan. A couple plays that I like here. Actually, a couple plays that I like here. For starters, Michigan at home. This is a get-right game for them. They lose at USC. The defense got embarrassed last week. I think they're absolutely going to try to put on a performance. Washington's defense, by the way, has been pretty damn good so far this season. Held Ohio State to 24, Maryland to 20. Rutgers to 19, UC Davis to 10, Colorado State to 21. So they have not allowed more than 25 points all season long. So I'm very impressed with this Washington defense. I think Michigan's offense has shown so many different signs of struggling. 13 to USC, 24 to Wisconsin, 30 that they scored against Nebraska, but that was, in my opinion, a fluke game. I'm looking more along the lines of this Wisconsin game here. That's what I think this score is going to end up looking like a 24 to 17 or a 24-20 game. It's what I'm looking like here. So under 51.5, I don't like that at all. As a matter of fact, I got it under 50.5 plus 104 via FanDuel. So be sure to punch that one in. Let's see. I've got 10 minutes left. So let me keep talking here. Player props. Jonah Coleman, right? Over 24.5 receiving yards. He has been hammering the receiving game recently. 6 receptions, 104 yards, 8 receptions, 47 yards. Alt play here over 24.5 yards receiving plus 130. Michigan has not seen a guy like Coleman in the backfield so far this season. I don't even know who Dylan Jones is, but he was the running back one for Wisconsin. King Miller, third string running back for USC. Emmett Johnson is the closest equivalent to Jonah Coleman that Michigan has seen all season long. And looky here, 5 catches, 32 yards. I think we're going to see him go for 3 and 26. That's my prediction. 24.5 is really good value, plus 130, statistically speaking. So those are my props there for the Michigan versus Washington game. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more games to talk about. Dang, guys, I'm sorry about that. I might not be able to get all these games, so I might just have to throw these props out to you. But let's talk, okay? Doinksports.com. I found all of these plays this afternoon and this morning. These are the ones that I'm looking at. There's so much value to be found on doinksports.com. If you're looking for some, it's not a perfect system, right? But let's go look at this TCU Baylor game. Trending insights. I've decided basically I'm just going to read you out my props whenever I get a chance. But looking at the games tonight, let's go look at this Baylor TCU game. Save. Trending insights. You could just see a few things in the lines that are out there. Now, some of them are skewed, like this under touchdown here for Sawyer Robertson. I don't think you can actually play that on underdog, but if you can, not a bad play at all. But I'm looking here. This is one that I actually took. Baylor over first half points, 14.5, minus 112. Let's go compare that real quick to TCU. So team props. Baylor first half, 14.5. TCU has come extremely close to allowing that in their last 3 games, 14, 14, and 14. Baylor has been unbelievably explosive in the first half of these games. 21 to SMU, 35 Samford, 28 Oklahoma State, 17 to Kansas State. Arizona State, they were off to a slower-ish start, but I think that had to do with the offense just not getting on the same page as they usually do. So Baylor in their last 5 is averaging 22 points per game in the first half. So to get this minus 112 at 14.5, I think is great value. TCU in their last 5 games, they're allowing 10.4. I don't count that game versus AC here. So we've got, what is that? 24, 38, 52 over 4 is like 12 points per game. They're allowing 12 points per game. Baylor scoring 22. I tend to lean offenses, so I like the 14.5. So that's just something that I do to try to find my value in these plays. So quick sip of water real quick, and I'll start to wrap this up for you guys. Okay, here we go. So first off, check out doinksports.com. If you like what I've been doing so far in this stream, go down, use doinksports.com for yourselves. If you like it, consider some kind of subscription plan. You can use my code PLIZONT, that's PLIZONT, for 25% off of any purchase of your choosing. I love this app. I love this website. I think there's just a tremendous amount of value in all of these plays, statistically speaking. TCU, by the way, at 17.5, don't love that. Baylor's defense has actually been pretty good in the first half, but that's not an official play. Secondarily, guys, go check me out on social media at Plazon on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. I talk a lot of college football. I talk a lot of NFL. And of course, as the NBA season is just 4 days away, I will be talking basketball over and over and over again. So let's go into our recap of the night. We're talking about the 3 night games and then all of the early morning slate for college football tomorrow. For starters, in the Louisville-Miami game, I've got Chris Bell under 30.5 longest reception, Jaleel Skinner over 29.5 receiving yards, and then team props wise, I like this game to go over 51.5. I like the Louisville over 19.5, and I like Louisville-Miami over 12.5 in the fourth quarter. So those are the 5 props that I like for that game. Moving on, let's talk about, I believe it's, let me think, Nebraska, Minnesota. I like Minnesota +7. I wrote that down. I like this game to go over 43.5, special on Hard Rock +130. And then I like Lamiki. Oh, goodness. I think his name's Bridington, over 3.5 receptions for Minnesota. Dane Key, anytime touchdown, +150 via Fanatics. Love that play right there. Let's talk about the Cal versus North Carolina game. Only one prop in that game. That's JKS, the quarterback for Cal, under 260.5 passing yards. Moving on, or let me make sure I've got all the plays. Yeah. Moving on, LSU Vanderbilt. I like the LSU Vandy game to go under 49.5 points. That's -115 via Hard Rock. LSU money line +115 via FanDuel. Caden Durham over 64.5 rushing yards +130 via Hard Rock. Diego Pavia under, actually, scratch that. I've officially decided to scratch that play. We're not going to go with it. You just never know in a big game like this what your quarterback might do. So I am officially X-naying that play, and I will replace that. Oh, the Minnesota-Nebraska game, Darius Taylor. That's my replacement pick right there. Minnesota-Nebraska, Darius Taylor, -121. Moving on, Trey'Dez Green, anytime touchdown, +300. Georgia Tech versus Duke. Haynes King, 2 touchdowns, anytime touchdowns, +300 via Fanatics. Haynes King under 39.5 longest pass, -110 via Hard Rock. Jamal Haynes over 11.5 rushing attempts, -108. And then I think that's it for that game. Okay, Michigan versus Washington. Michigan, I like them under 50.5 points, +104. And then player props wise, Jonah Coleman over 24.5 receiving yards. Josh Cameron for Baylor over 69.5 yards receiving, +115. Baylor over 14.5 first half points. They're extremely explosive offensively. You can see it here in the first half, averaging 22 points per game in their last 5, I believe. Moving on, let's talk about my other player props. Houston tomorrow morning versus Arizona. Connor Wegman over 197.5 passing yards, -114. Amari Thomas to pair with him, his Houston wide receiver 1 teammate, over 64.5 receiving yards. Kendrick Riscano, he's the running back 2 or running back 1 for Arizona. Depends on who you think. He's only played in 3 games, and as he's played more games, his workload has continued. Anytime touchdown, +240. John Mateer for Oklahoma, over 17.5 completions. He's done it every single game for Oklahoma this season. I think he can absolutely do it again. Pairing with that, his number 1 target, Deion Burks, I expect him to get into the end zone, +208 for that game. Jaron Kanak, tied in for John Mateer, over 39.5 yards receiving. John Mateer was out for that Kent State game. Now that he's back, it is more consistent. He's getting reps with the ones again. I think he starts to connect with his favorite target from the tight end group, Jaron Kanak, and an explosive play in that game versus South Carolina. Over 39.5 for Jaron Kanak. And then total props wise, or sides as well, Houston, Arizona, over 21.5 first half points. Houston, over 10.5 points in that first half. Houston, over 24.5 points throughout the game. This is a Houston team that's actually getting healthier. They looked really strong against Oklahoma State last week. I think they play well versus Arizona, maybe even get a W. What's the line here? it's an even line, so I don't really want to touch it. That's a gimme game, or that's a 50-50 game. So I'll just leave it at that. So be sure to come back, tune in tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Central Time. We're going to be doing our second college football stream. I'll be talking about all the 2:30, the 6 o'clock, and the late night games. So that being said, guys, check me out, Plazzone, on social media. Tune into Doink Sports. Check out doinksports.com. We will